Welcome back to another episode of That's Business. Today's guest, Kaela Gedda, is someone I met in a more unique way. So if you've listened to this podcast for a while and you've listened to our very first episode with Nick Gedda, this is his sister, lovely sister, older sister Kaela, which is so funny because if you've been following along, and I know a lot of you have, this has been like a fun trials, tribulations that I'm very vulnerable on this podcast about. We'll get into the story of how Kaela and I bonded, but Kaela, thank you so much for being a guest. I feel like this is a long time in the waiting.
Thanks so much, Angela. I love being here.
Before we dive into the soulful leadership and everything that you're doing with Rise Leadership Circle, throw it back to childhood. Were you always a leader, or did you know you always wanted to do this? Or what was your childhood like, if you feel comfortable telling us?
Oh, girl, I was always a leader. So I was born in San Diego. I was a little Navy baby. And shortly after I was born, my dad was shipped out to the Gulf War. So then my little baby 19-year-old mom was just single momming it with an actual baby. And so at 10 months, she picked up from California and moved back to live closer to her parents and my dad's parents in Michigan. And she tells the story about how when I was 10 months old, I insisted on pushing my own stroller through the airport, though I couldn't really walk.
That sounds right.
And so we almost missed our flight, yada, yada. And that was basically the writing was on the wall. I was I've got this. Even though I may be underqualified, I will figure it out. And that's me.
Oh my gosh. I'm not surprised by that story knowing you at all. So of course, 10 months old. That's a new record here. Wow.
And things just progress in much of the same fashion. I've always been creative and just wanted to bring people together and create unique experiences. And I remember, I think it was my 3rd grade birthday party. I had this vision of this creative game we were going to play, but nobody else could understand up the rules for my imaginary game. And so I think that I locked some kids in my bedroom or I locked myself in my bedroom and I was crying and I was like, nobody gets it. Nobody gets me. Nobody gets my game. So, I have since evolved from that, but I definitely had an early start at being innovative and trying to lead something.
Oh, that's so funny. Refresh my memory, because you went to Wisconsin and then back up to Houghton, Michigan, right?
Yeah. So I lived in Wisconsin pretty much my whole life. We moved here when I was young, and I've just recently started living part-time in Michigan, which is really fun. So now we live between Michigan and Wisconsin.
And when we're talking Michigan, for those of you that are out-of-staters, we're talking UP, Michigan. So we're talking Houghton, Michigan. We are talking far north, so way up there if you're listening. So you were your authentic self. You are a leader.
Sure.
What did that transition into? So we go to 3rd grade, but into high school, into college. What did you originally want to be when you air quote grow up, or what you thought you'd go into going into high school and college?
Let's see. In high school and college, I was pretty sure, especially in college, that I was going to be a broadcast journalist.
Oh, so
close. My whole 4 years in college, I knew this is my future. I'm going to be a broadcast journalist. And then 2nd semester junior year, I did a journalism intensive at American University in Washington, D.C. And that experience was incredible. We got to have so many different field trips, experiences, and it was all around journalism. And meeting all of these journalists, I learned that they work all the time and that they hardly ever sleep. And I was like, oh, I would have been misinformed here. This is not going to be the career for me. I've got to find a new plan. Stat. So then my senior year, I thought, well, I'll just be a professor. I'll stay in academia. I'll be a professor and I'll teach journalism, until I had the realization that it might not be great to be a professor of journalism if one has never been a journalist.
Fair.
So right as I was graduating, I, for the first time, found myself without a plan. And that was really interesting.
So what'd you do? You graduated. Did we come back home, or what did we end up doing?
I briefly moved home. Just for 3 weeks or a month. And I took a sales job in Chicago. My mom said, Kaela, this is not the job for you. I love you. I want you to be happy. And you're going to hate this job. The writing is on the wall. And, being the stubborn 22-year-old that I was, I said, what do you know? This is going to be great. I'm going to have the best experience. So I took the job. I moved to Chicago. And 4 weeks later, I was crying on my bathroom floor, hated it, had to quit. And my mom was completely right. The job itself was it was like door-to-door salesman. I had to go to businesses and it was the most bizarre job. It was terrible sales. I was good at it, but it was soul-sucking. And so after, 4 weeks, there was no such thing as a notice. Somebody quit every single day I had worked there.
Wow.
And I saw that what happened is they just would say, girl, bye. Just, so I called my boss and he said, nice knowing you, kid, and hung up. And that was that. So now I'm in Chicago with an apartment. I lived here for 1 month. I have an apartment with a 1-year lease that I cannot pay for. And I'm crying on my bathroom floor. So that was a ride.
So what did you do after that?
So a skill set that I had is that I knew how to be a great receptionist at a salon. My mom had previously owned a large salon and spa. I had been a manager for her, so I had a lot of skills. And so I just knew I can do this. There's a lot of salons around. I know how to use the technology, the software. And so I just went to a bunch of them. And like that day, my mom happened to be in town, luckily. And so she drove me all around and I put my application everywhere. And so I got a job quickly that it wasn't even enough to pay my bills, but at least I had some income coming in. And I got a referral from another friend for another part-time job. I had a friend move in. He moved into my dining room. So we turned my dining room into a separate bedroom.
Awesome.
And he helped cover my rent. And my mom paid my cell phone bill. I just scraped by and had a good time for the next few months until finally I moved home and started. I just fumbled around the next few years, trying on this, a little of that, really being unfulfilled and unhappy for the next few years, but trying to just pay my bills.
Oh my gosh. And when it comes to that point, because I know we've bonded over this of just being unhappy or not finding a purpose or just kind of coasting through everything. At what point, because I want you to talk about what you do now, of course, but what was the solution, or when did you have a come to moment where you were like, oh my gosh, I need to do something. I need to change. Do you remember that moment, or did you have a moment, or what was that transition?
I sure do. So leading up to that moment, I decided that I was going to do something different. I decided that I was going to change my career and that the path was going to be go back to school. So I had two choices. I was on the one hand going to go get my master's in public health administration, which that would not have been the route for me.
No.
I'm so glad I didn't choose it, but I thought maybe I would. And on the other hand, I thought I would become a life coach, which is very interesting because until this point, my life was not the model of what a life coach would be. I was not living. Why I had that thought is really surprising. But my mom had gone through a coach training program. And so I understood what coaching was. And I had enough knowledge to know, okay, if I got trained and certified in this, I think I have the natural skill set and that I could really do it. So that was pre my come to moment. So now here I am. It's a Saturday night in January. It's cold and snowy. I'm depressed. I haven't washed my hair in days. And I am laying in bed, scrolling Facebook, eating chocolate. Okay.
Love.
And I see, love it, right? Very, very relatable. I saw a photo of two people that I know who I did not know that they knew each other. They both lived on different sides of the country together. And they were at a graduation ceremony for a coach training program. And I thought, this is it. This is my sign. This is what I needed. And so I mustered up all of the courage that I had, which was 3 seconds worth, and clicked hop over. It was not much, but I just mustered it up. And I hopped over to the website for that coach training program that they were at. And I filled out the form to request a call for a Monday morning and said, this is it. I'm going to do this.
And knowing how you are as a person, this makes sense of you're just you know what, screw it, I'm going to do it. And you and I feel bond over that of this. It's all or nothing. We'll get to it. But I think a lot of people have a lot of signs that they just ignore, just don't take advantage of, or, oh, I'd love to do that training program in your case, but I'll get to the coaching program eventually. So how was that decision made to you instead? Because you could have easily canceled it, but what kind of told you that no, girl, you stay with it and you do it?
Okay, listen, I had no business signing up for this coach training program. Okay, so I get on the phone Monday morning and I was driving somewhere. So as the call is coming to a close, I'm driving back into my apartment complex. I hit the curb. I'm shaking. I was hopeful that it's January, that she's going to tell me that it follows a school schedule, that will start in September, that I can get a student loan, and that, I'll just have some time because I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I have no savings account. I have no spare $20 bill. I had $100,000 of debt. So I am in no business to be making any kind of decisions, right? And this woman tells me that the program starts in 3 weeks. I have to travel out of state for 1 weekend a month, every month for a year. And it's $16,500. Like, no, ma'am, do I have, this does not make sense, right? At this point, I would say, thank you so much. I'm sorry I wasted your time. Goodbye. But something was happening inside of me that is not logical. And this, I really think it often is not logical, that just said, but what if you said yes? Like, what if you just said yes? And so I want to tell you a little bit what was going on behind the scenes, and I'll tell you what I did. Behind the scenes, I was feeling so much guilt and shame and desperation and desire because I knew that I had $100,000 of debt. I knew that I had no savings account. I knew that I was living paycheck to paycheck. I knew that I was, quote, bad with money and that this wasn't really going to work for me. So I was in massive shame around all of that. And I also had this incredible desire to change my life. I was so unfulfilled, so unhappy that I had this big desire to change my life. And so in this moment, I heard my higher self just ask me, what if you just said yes? So that's what I did. I had one credit card for emergencies, like in case I got a flat tire and needed to call a tow truck. So it had a $500 limit. That was it. That's all the credit I had to my name. I took out that credit card and I maxed out the card to put the $500 deposit down. And then the next day, I was 25 years old. I walked into my credit union and had the audacity to ask them for a personal loan, even with my financial state, as it were. So I was just living on some massive courage at this time in my life.
Wow. So we get this personal loan. We go through everything. I'm sure there were lots of tears and lots of oh shit, what am I going to do? Because that's a lot of debt to take on. So what was this program like? And how did you know, were there doubts of oh my God, what did I do? Oh my gosh. But what was that like for you? That's a lot of debt.
It's so much debt. And it's also not, it's all relative.
Yeah, it is. And it's not if you look at these big companies or people dying with millions of dollars in debt.
Yeah, it's all relative. At that time in my life, it was so much debt, so much money. The program was so transformational. I was so cute. I dressed like a super professional. I walked in thinking, I'm not going to tell them anything about me. I'm just going to learn some skills and go out and build a business. That's not how life coach training programs go, just the FYI. In order to become a life coach and to create transformation for people, you have to go through your own transformation. And they smelt me a mile away, right? So they just called my number immediately. We went into some deep vulnerability and transformation from go. And so my life just started rapidly transforming. I started looking at all of my shame, all my guilt, all my patterns, all the stuff that had been having me operate in the way that I was, and woke up to some big opportunities for myself really quickly.
Whew. So this is a year. So I'm guessing you're around 25, 26. So
yep. Mm-hmm.
Did you just start your own business? Did you work for someone else? Or what happened after that program?
Yeah, my audacity just kept rolling. Okay. So I say yes in January. The program starts in February. By April, 2 months into the program, I say, I'm going to leave my job in a few months. And so 6 months into my program, I gave my boss my notice and said, I'm so grateful for this opportunity. I'm going to leave and start my own business. And at the time, I had only had one paying client. So I don't really have any evidence that people will hire me, that I know how to have a business. I just had incredible amounts of courage, and I was sharpening my self-trust, just really, really working on my self-trust. And so I hadn't even graduated from my program yet. It was November and I left my job, and now I'm an entrepreneur, but I have no clients. And the first 90 days were so, so tough. True story. I ended every night the first 90 days crying on my bathroom floor feeling like, what a fraud, what a failure. Why don't I think I can do this? My bills are piling. And on the very first day that I had my own business, my mom sent me a podcast. So amen for podcast, right? She sent me a podcast and I heard the woman say, if you take the same action every day for 90 days, on day 91, you'll see results. So I just hung on to that like my lifeline. So every day I would just get up and work on building my business again. And it was so true for me that the first 90 days were incredibly hard. And day 91, I truly saw, I think that this can go. I think that I can really do this. And by, just at the end of the third month, I was able to pay all my bills myself. So I saw tides are changing, things are turning, it's happening.
Now, when you worked on the business, what did that look like? Because it's easy to lose momentum. I mean, there are plenty of days, even now, where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so much work. And gosh, it'd be so easy to go in a corporate gig. But how did you kind of keep that momentum going for yourself?
Well, that job that I hated in Chicago really came in handy because I learned how to be with rejection and just keep going, just literally pounding the pavement. And that is what I did. I don't know if someone gave me this idea or if I thought of it myself, but one day I decided that I was going to open up the contacts in my phone book on my cell phone, and I was going to physically call every person and tell them what I'm doing and either ask them to hire me or ask for a referral, or I was going to delete their number. Like that was it. Everyone in my phone book was going to know what I was doing. I mean, I am calling the moms of my ex-boyfriend. I am on the phone with people that you would not believe, right? Like I am just out there on the streets, like being bold. And that's what I did. If I looked at someone and if I was like, I cannot call them, I would delete their number from my phone book. And the others I would call and I would just say, hey, I've had a big life change. I want to hear about what's going on with you. And I want to share about what's happening for me now. And I started getting in really good conversations. And as I was having these conversations, people were telling me, well, this is where I am. I'm really looking for support. This is what's hard for me. And I would offer them a session. I'd say, this is what I'm doing. I'm a life coach. Can I give you a session? I think I got to letter M. And by the time I got to letter M, I mean, my business had grown so much. I made 6 figures my first year. I just was doing the thing.
And it's some of those awful jobs because I always say my internship, I cried every day. It was B2B sales as well and recruiting. But dang, I'm fine with rejection and I am good at sales. So it's some of those like, oh my gosh, you don't see it till you really need it. So I definitely relate to that. So with what you're doing now, so you have this 6-figure successful business within first year. Amazing. How did we grow and work with mom too? And bring this on because, and I did not mention Lisa Limatau is also on the podcast and Kaela and her work together. So we met, I forgot to connect the two. Hello. So Lisa talked a lot about you, but now we can bring the two together. So that transition, late 20s, how do we change the business and how do we keep that momentum going?
Okay. So now I'm in year 2 of working for myself. I'm now making multi-6 figures. I'm loving my life. It's like my life is unrecognizable. I'm feeling happy and fulfilled and joyful. I'm helping my clients get results. And one Wednesday morning, I had a session with my coach because good coaches get coached. So I had a session with my coach. And after I was just buzzing, I was excited. I was inspired. So I went on a walk. And while I was on my walk, I took out my notes app on my phone and I was voice messaging to myself just these like downloads that I was getting, new ideas. And it felt when I got home, I was so excited. I thought, I feel like this is a new offer or maybe I'm changing my business. I don't know. So I did what I always do. I called my mom. I was in Wisconsin. She was in California. I was set to fly out to visit her in California. She was there on vacation. I was coming to vacation with her the next day. And she answered, and you guys were so different. I'm like the Instapot. You can tell I'm high energy. I'm loud and bold. My mom is like soft and sweet and spacious and loving. And so she was like, hi, Kaela. Oh, I just had the most beautiful meditation. And I was like, yeah. Listen, I have to tell you things. And so I just like word vomit all over her. Everything that I just saw or just heard, while I was on my walk. And she's silent. And I was like, hello? And she said, that's exactly what I just saw in my meditation. And I mean, the hairs on my arm just stood up, and she took out her notes, and then she starts talking, and we down to the same name. Our business name is Rise Leadership Circle. We both wrote Rise down. And so one of us said, I think we were meant to do this together. And that was it. We just she had her own coaching business also during this time. She was health coaching turned entrepreneur coaching. All her health coaching clients just kept coming to her for business coaching. And so that was it. I hung up. I called my attorney and my accountant and said, I'm starting a new business. Get ready. Let's book a meeting next week. I went out to San Diego and we spent the next 3 days on the beach just sketching our new business plan. And that was it. We did some pre-work, hit the ground running, and quickly and immediately built an incredible business. And that was 6 years ago. So now we've just been getting to do this together and really create transformation for folks.
I don't even have words to that. That's such a great story. Now, how is it working with your mom? Because I know some may be listening like, oh gosh, you have to get on each other's nerve. But your mother is truly an angel. If angels are real people, it is Lisa. It is 100% your mother. I believe that wholeheartedly.
Facts. I mean, my mom is angel in human form. Okay.
Yes.
So the question is really how is it for her working with me? Remember, pushing my stroller at age 10, throwing a tantrum that people don't get my game, right? So it's incredible. It's so sacred. It's so special. It's such a gift. And we get to do the work. We get to work on our relationship, on our partnership. We have a meltdown here or there. We have a coach for our relationship. We get to do our own work, and it's incredible. And I know that not everyone could do it, but I wish that everyone could because it's truly the best gift.
Well, and you bring different energies to the table too. Fun fact, I don't think I've admitted this on any episode, but I went and visited and met all of you in Houghton. Oh, wow. 2 years ago it's been almost. Yeah. That's crazy. So went up there and we're sitting at, I think it was Gino's. And I've spent the weekend with you, your mother, Nick. It's been so much fun. It's been out of a movie, just laughing and having fun. I'm sitting with Kaela and Lisa and I'm like, I think I need to end my relationship. And I'm like, oh my God, I've never said that out loud. I was like, I gotta go. I go back to my hotel room, sob, give myself a whole panic attack. I don't even know if I ever told you this, but give myself a whole panic attack. What am I doing? And this is going to change my whole life. But it's just something about the two of you that I was like, do I need to live in Houghton and just spend time? And Nick, your family's my family now. It's so hard to explain the energy because you level each other out and it makes sense to be good partners. Because I hate when, I don't want to say I hate, that's aggressive, but it makes for such a better coaching program. You work with different personalities. You have people that maybe need more your approach or Lisa's approach. And it just makes for such a better business model. So I'd give you your flowers on that because that was I knew it in my heart, but something about the two of you and that sweet Memorial Day air in Houghton, Michigan brought that out. So they're great coaches to say the least. But
thanks, Angela.
They're like, oh yeah, no problem. Let's talk about it. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. You just met me. This is crazy. But so enough about me. But how has the business changed or what are you focusing now? Who do you ideally help? Walk us through that.
Great. We have continued to morph and evolve, of course. Here's what we're really up to. We want people to live their yes lives. No more putting ourselves in the back burner. No more putting our dreams for later, for a rainy day, for until, if, when. We support entrepreneurs, leaders, and folks who are mostly women and men too, who say, I'm going to choose me, this dream that is inside of me. And maybe they don't even know what the dream is. Maybe it's I feel lost. I feel disconnected. You're having the feeling that I did when I was laying in bed, depressed, not washing my hair, eating chocolate. There has to be something else, and I don't know what it is. And we work with people. We coach them to do the inner work. We hold up the mirror so that they can look inside and discover what's really there, what's possible, and then cultivate the courage within inside of themselves to really go for it.
I love that. Are you working with new entrepreneurs, people that are maybe 10, 20 years in the business? Is there a certain demographic you work with as far as entrepreneurship goes?
A really big range. So everyone from who's not an entrepreneur at all to I have an idea and I think I want to be an entrepreneur, to I'm just dipping my toes in entrepreneurship, to folks that are making 7 and multi-7 figures. So no matter where you are or not on this scale, we have different offerings, different ways that you can work with us. And I love the diversity in our community of where people are at, because it really is supportive for everybody to be swimming in a pond where everybody's at a different place.
Right. And you're so needed. I mean, it's so easy to just, oh, it's going to be next. I'll do it later. I'll do it next. But just focusing on yourself and that say yes. And I love the brand. I love what you all stand for. And it's just such an impactful community you've truly cultivated. Now, I know this is a loaded question, but where do you want to go with the business? Do we have big plans for this year and the next few years?
Oh, of course. Okay. So I've had some things. Gosh, I wish I would. We've been working on some things, and y'all come look us up on social soon, because we're going to be making some big announcements.
Head to the show notes and you could check out Kaela's announcements.
Yeah, check out the big announcement. So where we are going is really connecting people with what is meant for them. And we're just doing this on a big level, no more sitting on the sidelines, no more waiting because of a circumstance or an excuse. There's a difference between it's not divinely timed yet versus I know it's my time and I'm getting in my own way. And so we have a team of coaches. We're growing that team. A few years ago, we made an incredible membership community, and we are growing that in a big way this year.
That's so exciting. Now, as we wrap this up, what advice do you have for listeners?
The advice that I would have for you is to believe in yourself. Truly, truly believe in yourself. It's the best gift that you can give yourself. You have the opportunity to trust yourself, to know that you are someone that's a powerful creator, that you have all of the gifts inside of you. It's just up to you if you want to activate them or not. So tap into that courage, even if it's just 3 seconds worth, and take just the next right action from the space of belief, worthiness, and trust.
Damn, you're good. Kaela, this has been so much fun. I just have so much love for you. Thank you so much. And for those of you listening, if you want to check out Kaela and watch for the big announcements, because I have a feeling they're going to be pretty big, head to the show notes and tune in again next week for another episode of That's Business.
If you're looking for a career change and you're not sure where to start, the Resume Rescue can help. Sure, there's no such thing as the perfect fit for everyone, but here at the Resume Rescue, we're on a mission to find the perfect solution for you. Whether it's changing careers, updating a resume, learning LinkedIn, or practicing interviewing, we have you covered. Find us online at theresumerescue.com and find all of our contact info in our show notes.